Last week, the band did our first tour in Canada. As I was preparing for these shows, I realized that there wasn't a ton of information out there on what you needed to be prepared to do so. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss some things that I learned about what you need to be prepared if you're a musician looking to play some shows in Canada. Welcome to Punk Rock 101. So let's start with crossing the border. I will start by saying that we got lucky and it was really easy for us to cross the border both into Canada and then back out of Canada and coming back into New York. I was definitely prepared for it to be much more difficult for 5 dudes in a van full of music gear and merchandise, because that might throw up some red flags. But let's talk about a few little things that you can have prepared if you want it to be the easiest experience possible. First, I will say that it will be a lot easier to cross the border if no one in your band has a criminal record of any kind. Make sure that everyone's okay to cross the border before you book the tour and make all the plans and actually travel up there, because even with an old misdemeanor charge, it can often be difficult and you might get stopped and it just makes it a hassle. You just want to avoid the situation where you actually can't get into the country. Second, I would say that you want to make a manifesto or just a list of all of the gear and items in your van. The more detailed you make this list, the better. I've heard some people list out all of the gear with serial numbers and everything. I will say that we did have a gear list prepared when we crossed the border, but we didn't actually need it. No one ever asked us for it. But if they do ask you what is inside your vehicle and want specifics, if you can just hand a piece of paper over, it definitely makes you seem more prepared and will help speed up the process in general and make sure that you don't get stuck there for hours on end. So as we're talking about items in your van, let's talk quickly about merchandise. If they ask you if you have merchandise or end up searching your van and finding merchandise, you do have to pay a 5% tax on those items, unless you're giving them away as promotion. But on a serious note, just have a general count of everything you are bringing in merch-wise and have a general value of what it's worth. It'll just make it easier if you end up having to actually deal with this. And I probably wouldn't bring in more merch than you think you're gonna actually sell while you're in the country. Another thing you may want to consider having is a written contract from at least one of the venues that you're gonna be performing at. They will definitely ask where you're going and they'll probably ask where you're staying. And if they ask for things in writing, it just makes it an easier process and makes it so you don't get stuck there. Again, I will say that we didn't actually need this, though we did have some written confirmation about some of the shows we were playing. But I have heard of other bands that do need this. But other than that, once you've successfully crossed the border, touring Canada, at least if you're going to Ontario, is pretty similar to touring the United States. The only major differences are they measure distance in kilometers and meters instead of miles and feet, and their money is really pretty and colorful, and currently worth more than ours. But yeah, as far as being a musician in the United States and traveling to Canada, you actually don't need a work permit. I know it's a little bit different the other way around. If you're a Canadian musician and you want to go to the United States, you're going to need a little more paperwork. Really, the main thing I learned at the end of the day was it really wasn't as stressful as I maybe anticipated it to be. So if you're thinking about going over to Canada to play some shows, get over there and do it and have some fun. Hope this was helpful. Cheers.